rain on Daexuan came down like a punishment from dead gods. It struck the plated shoulders of the gathered clans, hissed upon engine vents, ran in black streams down helmets scarred by a dozen campaigns, and soaked the banners that hung from the ruined walls of the old beast pens. In the jungle beyond the fortress, the night creatures screamed their hunger into the storm, but within the ring of Mandalorian steel, there was a greater hunger still. It sat upon the war throne at the head of the assembly, masked in iron, draped in trophies, and called itself Destiny. Mandalore the Ultimate had summoned them after the taking of Taris. He did not summon them to celebrate. He summoned them to listen. Canderous Ordo stood with Clan Ordo beneath the slanting rain, his boots sunk into red mud and crushed leaves, his hands resting near the grips of his blasters. He was younger than the old captains, but not young enough to be dazzled by victory anymore. He had seen worlds burn. He had watched planetary shields fall in blue veils of fire. He had fought Republic soldiers in corridors so narrow that the dead remained standing after they were killed, held upright by the press of bodies. He had heard children crying from under collapsed Duracrete, had smelled melted armor fused to skin, had felt the exultation of battle rise within him like a beast, and had hated himself for how alive it made him feel. That was the Mandalorian way, they said. War revealed truth. War stripped softness from the galaxy. War separated those who deserved to live from those who merely wished to. Canderous had believed it. He still believed some of it. A warrior without war was a blade left to rust. A people without challenge became weak, then decadent, then dead. But the war they had begun at the edge of known space had changed as it came inward. It had become less like a proving and more like a fever. The old raids had been clean things by comparison. Hard strikes, conquest, ransom, tribute, the winning of glory. This was something larger and fouler. Whole systems fed into the furnace not because they were worthy enemies, but because Mandalore wanted the fire higher. Around Canderous the clans roared as their leader rose. Mandalore lifted one gauntleted hand, and silence dropped. Even the rain seemed to bow. "Brothers," Mandalore said, his voice amplified through the mask until it sounded less like a man than a verdict. "Sisters, sons and daughters of iron, you have heard the Republic call us butchers. You have heard the Jedi call us savages. You have heard cowards claim that we fight because we are restless, because we are cruel, because we know no other path." A ripple of contempt moved through the assembly. Helmets turned. Fists tightened. Mandalore descended one step from the throne. "They do not understand us," he continued. "They never have. The Republic is a feast hall filled with soft-handed kings, each one fat from peace, each one protected by laws written by frightened men. The Jedi sit above them like pale judges, preaching balance while hiding from the blood that keeps civilization alive. They speak of peace because others die to defend it." A cheer answered him. Canderous did not cheer. He watched the mask. The mask had always fascinated him. Not merely because it was the sign of rule, not merely because every Mandalorian child learned to revere it before they knew the weight of a rifle. It fascinated him because of what it erased. Behind that faceplate, a man could become a symbol. Behind that symbol, a command could become holy. Behind holiness, even madness could wear armor. "The Republic thought Taris would slow us," Mandalore said. "It thought its fleets would humble us. It thought the Jedi would remain clean while others drowned in our advance. But one Jedi has answered." At the name, the assembly shifted. Some spat into the mud. Some laughed. Some went very still. Canderous felt it too. Revenda. The name had moved through the war like a blade through cloth. At first it had been a rumor from the Outer Rim. A Jedi who would not obey the Council, a commander with eyes bright enough to shame the stars. Then the rumor had become a strategy. Then the strategy had become a wound. Mandalorian fleets that should have crushed Republic lines found themselves drawn into traps with no exits. Forward bases vanished beneath precision strikes. Supply routes were cut by forces that should not have known they existed. Revan did not fight like the Republic. Raven fought like someone who understood Mandalorians well enough to hate them properly. That had earned Canderous' respect. It had earned Mandalore's obsession. Revan believes this war belongs to him, Mandalore said. He believes the Jedi who follow him are hunters, and we are prey. Let him believe it. Let him come deeper. Let him gather every fleet, every soldier, every traitor in robes. Let him think the jaws close around us. Money, etia. Canderous felt the words before he understood them. There was something inside Mandalore's voice, a pleasure too deep for pride. It was not the confidence of a commander preparing to win. It was the hunger of a priest preparing a sacrifice. Mandalore raised both hands. We will draw him to Malachor. The name passed through the crowd in a low murmur. Malachor. Canderous had seen the reports. A dead place. A world of broken gravity and ancient poison. Some scouts refused to land there twice. Others returned with voices gone thin, as if they had heard something beneath the stone. The beasts of Daeshuan were honest compared to a place like that. Beasts killed because they hungered. Malachor seemed to hunger because it remembered. The world itself will test him, Mandalore said. The Republic will bring its fleets, the Jedi will bring their pride, and we will bring the full strength of the clans. There, beneath a sky that hates all living things, we will decide the fate of the age. Cheers rose again, but this time they were uneven. Canderous looked across the ring and saw Cassius Fett standing like a carved idol among his chosen. Cassius did not cheer either. His helmet remained angled toward Mandalore, but his fingers flexed once at his side. So he felt it too. Good. Canderous filed that away. Mandalore spoke of glory. He spoke of the clans reborn in a galaxy made strong. He spoke of the Jedi broken, the Republic humbled, the Mandalorian name written in fire across every star chart from the unknown regions to Coruscant. The warriors drank his words as they had always done, but Canderous listened past them. Beneath each promise was another sound, the faint scrape of chains being dragged into place. When the assembly ended, the clans dispersed into the storm. Fires guttered. Armor lamps winked through the rain. Drops hammered on gunship hulls and pooled in the dents made by old battles. Canderous remained beneath a leaning arch of black stone, watching Mandalore's guards close around the war throne. A figure approached from his left. Cassius Fett removed his helmet. Rain slicked his dark hair to his brow. His face was sharp, composed and unreadable except for the eyes. Those eyes had seen what Canderous had seen. That was enough. Ordo, Cassius said. Fett, you did not cheer. Neither did you. Cassius glanced toward the throne. I was listening. So was I. A silence followed. It was not friendly, but there was use in it. Cassius stepped under the arch beside him. Malachor is a killing ground. All worlds are killing grounds once we arrive. Not like this. Cassius's voice lowered. I have reviewed the fleet placements. Mandalore is moving the clans into a formation that gives us no retreat corridor. Canderous looked at him. Cassius did not blink. None. Rain drummed between them. That makes no sense, Canderous said. No, it makes one kind of sense. The kind where he expects us to die. The kind where he expects death to prove something. Canderous stared toward the throne again. Through the rain and torch smoke, Mandalore's mask caught the light. It seemed almost alive, almost listening. Who else knows? Canderous asked. Those who read maps and have not forgotten how. That few. Cassius gave a thin smile. Fewer every year. Canderous almost laughed, but there was no humor in him. For a long moment, he remembered being a boy. Small enough that his father's gauntlet had seemed the size of a shield when it rested on his shoulder. He remembered being told that Mandalore was not merely a ruler. Mandalore was the living will of the people. Challenge was sacred, but only when the people had failed and the leader had become weak. 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 The word did not fit the figure on the throne. Mandalore was not weak. That was the terror of it. A weak ruler destroyed a clan through fear or hesitation. A strong ruler could destroy a civilization through conviction. "What are you suggesting?" Canderous said. Cassis looked at him then, really looked at him, measuring something more dangerous than loyalty. "I am suggesting that if we go to Mandalore as ordered, many songs will be written about our courage, and no one will remain alive to sing them properly." "That is not an answer." "No," Cassis said. "It is a warning." He put his helmet back on and left Canderous beneath the arch. Canderous stood there until the rain ran cold beneath his collar and into the seams of his armor. In the fortress beyond the throne, Mandalore's private hall glowed with furnace light. Shadows moved there. Guards, attendants, war priests, messengers. For an instant, between one fall of lightning and the next, Canderous thought he saw another shape standing behind the throne, robed and still, neither Mandalorian nor Republic, its face hidden in the dark. Then, the lightning died. The shape was gone. Canderous told himself it had been a trick of storm and flame. He did not believe it. That night he returned to his quarters and did not sleep. Around him, his warriors drank, repaired armor, sharpened blades, gambled over trophies, boasted of Mandalore as if it were already won. Canderous sat alone with his helmet on the table before him. The T-shaped visor stared back at him, black and empty. "What are we becoming?" he asked it. The helmet did not answer. Beyond the walls, Deshum roared. And somewhere in the fortress, Mandalore laughed. The next world was not remembered by its name. It had a name once, printed on Republic charts and stamped into the authority codes of orbital stations. It had governors, mines, water rights, tax disputes, old monuments, schoolhouses, and the smug confidence of every world that believed war was something that happened to someone else. After the Mandalorians came, the name became useless. Canderous would remember it only as the place where the prisoners sang. They sang in the ruins of the capital while the sky burned green with the wreckage of its defense fleet. Not songs of defiance, not prayers either. They sang to keep count of one another in the dark. 1,000 civilians had been penned beneath the remains of a transit hall while Mandalorian engineers stripped the city's shield generators for transport. Canderous had passed them with a squad at his back, expecting curses. Instead, he heard thin voices moving together, rising and falling under the thunder of distant artillery. He had stopped. One of his men, a broad-shouldered veteran named Vevet, looked at him. Orders? Canderous had stared at the prisoners. Most were workers. Some were old. Some wore the uniforms of local militia who had surrendered after their officers were vaporized. One man held a cloth over the eyes of a girl too young to understand why the ceiling had fallen. The girl's mouth moved with the song, though she did not know the words. "Water," Canderous said. Vevet shifted. "They are prisoners. They will still be prisoners after they drink." Vevet obeyed because Canderous was his commander. That was the way of things. But he obeyed slowly. Later, Mandalore's decree came through the camp. The prisoners were to be transferred to forward labor ships. Those with technical knowledge would serve. Those without it would be used where bodies were needed and machines were too valuable to waste. Canderous read the order twice. Then he walked through the camp with murder in his heart and discipline in his hands. The war camp sprawled across the shattered plain outside the city, a kingdom of iron tents, landing claws, smoke pits, field hospitals, animal pens, fuel towers, and weapon shrines. Fires burned in trenches carved by bombardment. Warriors moved between them with the weary arrogance of conquerors, who had not yet realized victory had become another kind of labor. Everywhere there were trophies, Republic helmets hanging from pikes, banners taken from militia halls, fragments of Jedi robes nailed to gunship doors by men who had never met the Jedi who wore them. Canderous found Cassis in the command pavilion. A map of the Mandalore system hovered above a table of black metal, rotating slowly in blue light. Around it stood 3 captains and a priest of the old rites whose armor was etched with bone-white script. They stopped speaking when Canderous entered. "Leave us," Cassis said. The captains looked irritated. The priest looked offended. None argued. When they were gone, Canderous removed his helmet and set it on the table. The glowing map painted his face in the color of ghosts. "You saw the order?" Cassus asked. "I saw it. And I want to know when we started feeding civilians into the war machine and calling it honor." Cassus folded his arms. "Long before today. Today you noticed." Canderous bristled. "Careful." "Why?" "Because you may strike me." "Do it then. It would be cleaner than pretending we are debating tactics." "Nunda." Canderous stepped closer but stopped himself. Cassus watched the restraint with mild interest. "You are angry," Cassus said. "Good. Anger means something in you is still alive. I do not need philosophy from Clan Fett." "No. You need information." Cassus touched the map controls. The Malachor projection widened. Red indicators appeared around the gravity well. Green markers showed projected Mandalorian fleets. Blue markers showed likely Republic ingress vectors. Canderous studied it. His stomach tightened. "You were right," he said. "No retreat corridors." That was the first layer. Cassus adjusted the map again. Hidden routes appeared, marked in Mandalorian cipher. "These are not for withdrawal," Canderous said. "No. They are kill lanes." "Yes. For Republic ships?" Cassus looked at him. Canderous understood before Cassus spoke. "For everyone," Cassus said. "The fleet positions are designed to pull Revan into the center and then collapse the battle around him. The clans nearest the gravity wells will not survive the maneuver. The outer lines will be trapped by our own minds. If the Republic pushes as expected, the inner clans become bait. If Revan hesitates, Mandalore orders the inner clans forward anyway." "Many." Canderous felt his jaw lock. "How many?" "At least a third of our strength." "A third?" "Perhaps more. No commander wastes a third of his own strength unless the enemy loss is greater." Cassus said nothing. Canderous looked again at the map, searching for the logic he wanted to find. He found only red symbols and death. "What does he gain?" Canderous demanded. Cassus turned the projection off. The sudden dimness felt like a verdict. "I have asked myself that for months," Cassus said. "At first I thought he meant to break Revan by forcing him to choose between victory and slaughter. Then I thought he meant to make martyrs of the clans, to bind the survivors through grief. Now I think the answer is worse." "What answer?" Cassus leaned closer. "I do not think Mandalore is commanding only for this war." Canderous waited. There are whispers among his private guard. Strange envoys. Messages routed through dead systems. Worlds we bypass though they are useful. Worlds we strike though they are worthless. Scouts sent into the unknown regions and never logged. Captains reassigned after questioning orders. Priests speaking of a war beyond the war. "No." "Sith stories," Canderous said, but the word lacked force. Cassus watched him. "You have seen the robed one." The air seemed to thin. Canderous did not answer. Cassus nodded once. "So have I." For a while, neither spoke. Outside, the camp rumbled with machines and distant shouting. Somewhere, a wounded man began to scream as surgeons cut armor from his body. "The Jedi say the Sith are gone," Canderous said. "The Jedi say many things. And you believe Mandalore serves them?" "I believe Mandalore believes he is using them." That was worse. Canderous could imagine Mandalore kneeling to no master. He could not imagine him recognizing that a master need not ask a warrior to kneel. A master only had to point him toward the war he already wanted. "You should have brought this to the clans," Canderous said. "I have brought pieces of it to those who might listen. Most hear treason. Others hear fear. A few hear truth and grow quiet. which is more dangerous than refusal. You are Cassius Fett. They would listen. My. Cassius laughed without warmth. Some would. Some would report me before the next meal to prove their loyalty. The mask makes cowards of proud men. Canderous looked at his own helmet on the table. A Mandalorian could challenge. That truth had not died. It was older than any current war, older than the mask itself. But a challenge to Mandalore was not merely a duel. It was a wound cut into the body of the people. If the challenger failed, his clan bore the shame. If he succeeded, the galaxy changed beneath his feet. And if he challenged wrongly, for pride, ambition, anger, or fear, he did not save Mandalore. He murdered it. Canderous did not trust himself enough. Not yet. Why tell me? He asked. Because you still think honor is something more than obedience. Many do. Few would bleed for the difference. Canderous picked up his helmet. And you? Cassius' expression hardened. I have bled enough to know blood alone proves nothing. The word stayed with Canderous long after he left. That night, he went to the prisoner pens. The transit hall had no roof now, only ribs of durasteel arcing against a smoky sky. The prisoners huddled behind energy fencing while Mandalorian guards paced the perimeter. They did not sing anymore. That silence bothered him more. Vavid stood watch near the gate. Commander, he said. Open it. Vavid hesitated. The labor ships arrive at dawn. Open it. The gate hummed aside. Canderous entered alone. Fear moved through the prisoners like wind through grass. The girl he had seen before hid behind the same man. Her father, perhaps. Or not. War made strangers into families when it had finished killing the real ones. Canderous stopped several paces away. I need engineers, he said. Mechanics, medics, anyone who can repair field equipment. No one moved. You can stay here and be loaded into ships at dawn, he said. Or you can work under my clan's protection. Work well and you eat. Try to run and you die. Lie about your skills and you go back to the pens. A woman with blood dried along one side of her face slowly raised her hand. Then, another. Then the man shielding the girl. Vavid watched from the gate, expression hidden by his visor. Canderous selected 43 prisoners. More than he could justify. Fewer than he wanted. He signed them into Clan Ordo's auxiliary lists under repair classification and sent them to guarded quarters near the vehicle yards. As he left, the girl looked at him. She did not thank him. He was glad. Gratitude would have felt like a blade between his ribs. Near dawn, as ash drifted over the camp like dirty snow, Canderous found a message waiting in his private channel. It carried no sender mark, only coordinates within the ruined city and a time. He considered deleting it. Instead, he went. The coordinates led to the gutted remains of a governor's hall, where rain fell through the broken dome and gathered in the mosaic eyes of dead Republic founders. A single torch burned beneath the central arch. Mandalore stood beside it. No guards, no attendants, just the mask, the armor, and the silence between them. Canderous stopped at the edge of the torchlight. You took prisoners from the labor allocation, Mandalore said. Canderous felt no surprise, only a tired certainty. I requisitioned skilled auxiliaries. You took more than skilled hands. I took what my clan required. Mandalore turned toward him. Do you question the use of conquered resources? I question waste. Mercy is waste. Then why let any live? To serve strength. And if strength begins serving death. The words were out before caution could kill them. Mandalore became very still. The rain whispered through the broken dome. You speak boldly tonight, Canderous Ordo. Canderous heard his full name in Mandalore's mouth and felt the old instinct to bow under it. He crushed that instinct. You taught us boldness. I taught you obedience. No, Canderous said. You taught us victory. Obedience was only useful while it led there. The torch snapped in the rain-damp air. For a moment, Canderous believed Mandalore would strike him down. Part of him wanted it. A clean attack. A clear answer. Instead, Mandalore approached, each step heavy enough to send ripples through puddles on the mosaic floor. "You are troubled," Mandalore said. "I am awake. You think those are the same. And you think they are different?" Mandalore stopped close enough that Canderous could see rain beating on the ancient mask. "There are truths beyond the courage of soldiers," Mandalore said softly. "There are wars hidden beneath wars. I've seen the shadow waiting beyond the Republic. I've heard the old enemy breathing in the dark while the Jedi sleep and the Senate fattens itself on peace. This war is not madness. It is preparation." Canderous's blood chilled. "The robed envoy," he said. Mandalore said nothing. "Who speaks to you?" "No one speaks to me as master." "That is not an answer." "It is the only answer a Mandalorian should need." Canderous almost reached for his blaster. "Almost." Mandalore leaned closer. "Revan sees it too," he said. "Why do you think he fights so fiercely? Not for the Republic. Not for the Council. He has looked into the same abyss and mistaken himself for the blade that will seal it. He is wrong. Only we can harden the galaxy. Only war can burn weakness out before the true storm comes." "At Malachor," Canderous said. "At Malachor, the galaxy learns what survival costs. Our people learn it first. Our people were born knowing." Canderous stared into the visor that had guided him since boyhood and saw nothing of a father there. Nothing of a protector. Nothing even of the conquering king he had followed gladly into fire. He saw a man who had confused destruction with revelation. A man listening to darkness and calling the echo his own will. "When the clans die," Canderous said, "will you call that victory?" "If their deaths forge an age strong enough to endure, yes." The answer landed quietly. That made it worse. Canderous stepped back. "Then you are not Mandalore anymore." The torch between them flared in the rain. Mandalore's hand moved to his weapon. Canderous did not draw. "Not yet." Mandalore tilted his masked head. "Careful, Ordo." Canderous put on his helmet slowly. The world narrowed to the T of his visor. Rain became static. Heartbeat became drum. "I am done being careful," he said. Mandalore laughed then, low and terrible. "Good." But he did not attack. He turned away and walked into the ruins' darkness, leaving Canderous with the torch, the rain, and the knowledge that the challenge had already begun. Far from the Mandalorian camp, Revan studied the same war through a different map and saw the same shadow. The chamber had once belonged to a Republic admiral who believed rank could protect a man from consequence. His portrait still hung half-melted above the tactical table, one painted hand resting on the hilt of a ceremonial sword he had never used. Beneath that ruined image, Revan stood in travel-stained robes and battle armor, face hidden behind a mask that had become a symbol to some and an accusation to others. Around him waited Jedi, officers, pilots, messengers, and soldiers, too exhausted to pretend they did not fear the next command. Alex stood at Revan's right hand, broad and restless, his mouth a hard line. He had not yet become what history would make of him. There was still warmth in him then, though war had begun to teach that warmth how to wear cruelty as armor. He trusted Revan more than he trusted the Force, which was dangerous for both of them. "The Mandalorian forward fleets have shifted again," said Admiral Varco, a narrow man with bandages climbing one side of his neck. "Their pattern suggests a massing near the Malachor system. We believe Mandalore intends to force a decisive battle." Alex snorted. "He intends to bait one." Several officers glanced at him, then away. Revan said nothing. The map turned. Malachor appeared at its center, a bruised sphere wrapped in gravitational warnings and old hazard marks. The system around it glittered with projected fleet positions. Red for Mandalorian dot. Blue for Republic. White for uncertain. Too many white marks, Revan thought. Too much of the battle already decided by absences. "The terrain favors no one," Varco continued. Interference from the planet disrupts long-range scans. Gravity anomalies complicate fleet maneuvering. There are several viable ambush points, but none capable of hiding a force large enough to... They are not hiding, Rivan said. The room stilled. Varko swallowed. My lord? Rivan disliked the title, but no longer corrected it. Titles were weapons too, and rejecting one at the wrong time merely placed it in another man's hand. They want us to see